All right. That was my walk-on music that I requested. So, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining me this lunchtime. My name is Duncan, and I'm the Director of Audiobooks, Publishing and Licensing here at Spotify. This is probably quite embarrassing, but I think, give or take a few years around COVID, that this is my 20th Frankfurt Book Fair, which probably ages me more than my hair does. I've been in publishing my whole career. I was at Penguin Random House recently for the last 10 years before I joined Spotify. And publishing is an industry that I'm so passionate about, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you today about how Spotify is driving discovery, expanding audiences, and growing the industry. This month is also a small birthday for us, because it's 2 years since we launched Audiobooks and Premium. From the outset, our mission has been to help grow the book ecosystem as a whole and to reimagine the reading experience. We wanted to do this not just by having audiobooks in a standalone app, but by putting books together with music and podcasts in one single destination. In doing so, we're bringing books to where people already are, giving books equal billing with music and podcasts, and removing any friction for people to just start listening. And as a result, we have allowed more people to discover audiobooks for the very first time and hopefully ignite a habit for listening for future generations of readers. An audience that is younger, more diverse, and ranges from heavy book users to people listening to their very first audiobook. So in autumn 2023, we launched Audiobooks and Premium to users in the UK, US, and Australia, which entitles premium subscribers up to 15 hours of audiobook listening every month. And since then, we've expanded internationally, bringing Audiobooks and Premium to a total of 14 countries around the world with a very similar offering, putting books front and center to a service that millions of people use every single day. And the response has been really strong wherever we've launched. Now, I couldn't be on stage here in Frankfurt without talking about our most recent market expansion. Back in April, we launched Audiobooks and Premium to Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein, and it's really taken off. As you know, in this region, there's always been an existing culture of listening to audiobooks, making it one of the largest audiobooks in the market. And we wanted to grow that further by bringing an amazing catalogue of premium best-selling books to the service. Early signs are really positive, as we're growing the number of audiobook listeners almost 10% month on month since launch. Now, not only have we been expanding our offering to different markets, but we've also been expanding our catalogue. Since launch, our catalogue has tripled from 150,000 titles to over 500,000 titles in our English language markets. Now, part of that success, we believe, is because we're offering a very different model. Unlike other platforms where customers might have one audiobook credit a month, we believe our hourly entitlement offers a bit more flexibility for users. And by removing this jeopardy and just encouraging people to try books, it means that customers can be more adventurous with their choices. It leads people to try more and more books, going deeper into the catalogue and allowing for more diverse gems to be discovered. We also believe that our hourly entitlement creates greater opportunity for short-form titles, breathing new life into categories like kids, poetry, and short stories, which had often struggled in the digital audiobook market. But whilst the UK, US, and Germany were already quite established markets, we've also entered into other markets with different levels of maturity. And as a result, in markets like France and Netherlands, where we've had a great start, there's still a great disparity between what's available in physical books and ebooks versus what's available in the format of audiobooks. So in April this year, to try and rectify that, Spotify announced a €1 million investment to help increase the production of audiobooks in French and Dutch languages and to support local publishers and authors in fast-tracking production of great local stories. Now, we're also committed to empowering authors by providing them with the tools and resources that they need to thrive in the audiobook market. About a year ago, we launched Spotify for Authors, which is our portal for publishers and authors to get access to new analytics that weren't previously available. And over the last few months, we've expanded the support to self-published and independent authors as well, enabling them to have the same access to the powerful tools that publishers have, plus the new functionality to upload and distribute directly to Spotify. Now, the heart of everything we do is about audience growth and helping all authors find and grow new readers and listeners. So let's dive a little bit deeper into audience growth. By making audiobooks more accessible, engaging, and culturally connected than ever before, we've introduced the format to an entirely new group of listeners. In fact, more than half of all eligible premium users have now tried an audiobook on our platform in English language markets. And we think this is an incredible achievement and really significant and something we're very proud about. It's helped bring new audiences to discover audiobooks for the very first time, and it's only just the beginning. For 2 years on, we're still seeing growth. We're continuing to attract new listeners, with 36% growth in individuals starting an audiobook year on year. This expands the market for everyone, creating new opportunities for authors and publishers alike. And this has gone hand in hand with growth in listening hours, up 37% year on year. More listeners listening to more hours. This is fueling growth across the industry. But don't just take our word for it. Data from the Publishers Association in the UK shows that in 2024, audiobook revenue was up 31% year on year. And in the USA, the APA reported that digital audio revenue rose to 2.4 billion in 2024. We're really proud to be part of that growth. Now, Audiobooks and Premium was redesigned to meet the habits of a younger generation that consumes culture on demand, blends formats seamlessly, and expects personalized discovery. In fact, over half of all Spotify audiobook listeners globally are under the age of 35. Now, encouraging younger people to fall in love with books is not just a perennial challenge of the audiobook or the book industry in itself, but also one for society at large. And by engaging with this younger audience, we're not only growing overall audiobook adoption, but hopefully we're building a lasting fandom and habits that will carry the love of reading and books in whatever formats into the future. So how have we grown the fan base? We constantly want to improve and evolve our offering to customers. In July this year, we launched Audiobooks Plus. This new offering serves two main purposes. Since we launched Audiobooks in Premium, we heard a lot of feedback from users on Duo and family accounts that they also wanted access to audiobooks. So thankfully, they can now purchase a recurring subscription to listen to audiobooks as well, unlocking a brand new significant market for our authors and publishers. And as well as widening access to this cohort of users, we're also allowing Audiobooks Plus for really big superfans to allow them to buy more hours on top of their hourly entitlements. It's early days, but this product has already driven up significant engagement and users. In the US, consumption among Audiobooks Plus users is up 18% within the first month. Now, when we think about growing fans, we also think beyond their own app. This summer, we launched our first ever audiobooks brand marketing campaign, which we called Read Like You Listen. Its aim was to drive awareness for audiobooks as a new format to tens of millions of people across some of our leading markets in Spotify's unique way. The campaign captures the heart of what it means for a music company to start offering audiobooks. It's simple, it's personal, it's full of emotion, and it's fun, just like the way you experience and talk about music with your friends. And we're applying this to everything we do, like events. Whether that's working with Dua Lipa and her book club in the New York Public Library event, or helping Mark Ronson launch his recent autobiography. We're using our place in culture to connect people with books and drive fandom. Plus, we also like to throw a good party. This, of course, expands to authors outside of music too. We've worked with many publishers to host events, such as authors like V.E. Schwab, or an experiential pop-up event we did in New York, where over 1,000 Romantasy fans got to hear from their favorite authors, such as Alex Aster, Jasmine Mass, and Sable Sorensen. And then finally, there's Wrapped. Wrapped has established itself as one of society's modern cultural phenomenons, enabling users to share their listening behavior with their friends and family every year. Last year, we were excited to introduce Wrapped for authors for the very first time, allowing authors and books to get in on the action and have their moment in the limelight, sharing fun data stories with their fans. Now, while I can't share details about Wrapped 2025, I can say that we're really excited about what's going to happen. And for me to embarrass myself in front of my friends about how much Romantasy titles I've been listening this year in the name of research. All right, so that's it for me. Hopefully a nice summary of what we've done in the last year. I just wanted to change tack and bring in some friends to help me out. So I just kind of come here to introduce you to Mary Beth. Robin and Colin. If you could just introduce yourselves very briefly, and then we can start asking some questions.
Sure. I'm Mary Beth Roach. I'm the president and publisher of Macmillan Audio in the United States.
I'm Robin Straatman. I'm the manager digital retail at Xander Publishers and also WPG Children's Books. And I'm responsible for the ebook and audiobook sales and strategy.
My name is Colin. I'm the CEO of Hörbuch Hamburg, one of the biggest audiobook publishers in Germany. We've been around for 25 years. And I had a previous career in music, so I'm especially happy to see a big player of the music industry taking audiobooks seriously. So also, welcome to Spotify, I guess.
Great. Well, thank you. You've been strong allies and partners for us from the start, so we really appreciate you being here. I'll start with you, Mary Beth. As I just mentioned, audiobooks are one of the fastest growing segments of the publishing industry, and we're seeing Spotify bringing younger, diverse listening to the format. How does our reach and integration with music and podcasts change the way that you think about reaching new audiences?
So in the United States, a few years ago, there was a general jubilation when we surpassed the 50% mark of people who had listened to audiobooks. But since we're all focused on growth, I fixate on that now 48% who have not yet tried an audiobook. And I think working with Spotify has been a really exciting tool. I mean, being able to reach listeners where they already are, where they're already engaging with content, I think gives us a huge advantage. And I think that is especially true for authors who either have their own podcasts or are featured regularly on large podcasts, and musicians. And I would say two examples that we've had where we've had sort of a special success. Drew Afualo, who is an influencer and podcaster, did a lot with Spotify. There were a lot of special content that was created that Spotify shared. I think really excellent targeted reach to her podcast listeners. And in that instance, the audiobook was the lead format. So we sold more copies of the audiobooks than we did of any other format. And that's also true of another new book we have out by Alison Stoner. She was a former Disney Channel star, a singer, and an actress. And again, she's hugely popular with millennial and Gen Z listeners. And again, special promotions, working with the Spotify team, and that is also, the audio is the lead format.
Great. Fantastic, thank you. And moving on to you, Robin. The Netherlands is still comparatively, I'd say, a relatively young audiobook market compared to Germany and the US. Mm-hmm. What do you think will be the single biggest lever for growth in the next couple of years, whether it's catalog expansion, marketing, or is it something else?
Well, we've seen that marketing works. The moment Spotify launched on the Dutch market, we've seen a very positive halo effect for the audiobook in general. So also other platforms have really stepped up their game. Like they've been doing marketing. Spotify has been doing a lot of marketing, and we've seen very positive results with that. That being said, I think catalog expansion for especially the Netherlands is very important and should be a focus for the next couple of years. Dutch only has like 24 million people who speak the language, which is relatively small. So audiobook production is relatively expensive. So that's why some publishers are very hesitant about it. But I do think in general, you can't sell what you don't have. So expansion should be priority, I think. Yeah.
Great. All right, thank you. So to all of you, but maybe start with Colin. With so many first-time listeners and such heavy cross-consumption between podcasts, are there any genres in particular, or authors, or styles that you think are particularly well positioned to thrive in this environment?
I think one recipe that remains true is that you have to find great books and produce great audiobooks. So quality of content still is crucial. I think we now have the great opportunity that there's new audiences coming in. They are younger, they're interested in different genres, and you have the overlap to the music and the podcast side. So we're definitely seeing certain, let's say, nonfiction authors working well, or those authors who have been exposed to either podcast or music side of things. So we are working quite heavily on making sure that the titles that are out there are actually being found by the right people. So I think the whole question of curation is very important. Us making sure that the curators at Spotify know which titles are suitable for the audiences, but also all the work that you are doing on the algorithmic side is going to play a big role in making sure that those titles actually get to the audiences.
Great. And for any of you guys, have you got anything to add to that?
Oh, really? I fully agree.
Yeah.
I would say the only thing is sort of maybe an opportunity for shorter format programs. I think in the past there's been a sense that titles needed to be longer to be worth purchasing, but because of the way people on Spotify are experimenting, I think there's some opportunity for shorter format as well.
And that's certainly something we're really keen to support ourselves. And the definition of what an audiobook is very loose, of course, and getting anyone to read, whether it's a short format and particularly children's, where we talked about as well, is a really exciting opportunity. Has it changed the way that you think about acquiring books at all, or is audiobooks so ingrained in how you acquire books as a publisher that hasn't really done so? I went off script there a bit.
Maybe I think that there are just more opportunities that we can be more open-minded about what is an audiobook, what might make sense, and we can go both broader and deeper.
Okay, great. And to you, Colin, we're seeing backlist on Spotify has really helped to sort of breathe a new life of audience to older books. How do you see the backlist strategy evolving for you, both for classics, commercial hits, or for niche authors?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I think as a purely audiobook publisher, I think we've had this major shift over the past 10 years almost already, because as we've shifted to a almost purely digital company and business, the importance of the physical shelf and the limitations has kind of disappeared. So we now have a virtually limitless shelf space, and the question is, how do we fill that so that the right content for the right person is there at all times? So we've already changed the way we look at our release strategy. Of course, front list is still important, but it's very important to see how long can we stretch the life of a title and make sure there's not just one point in time where we tell people about this great book, but actually prolong this for a long time. And I think both the curation is plays a big role here, but also all the customization, personalization that makes sure that each person finds the right title that's right for this person at this specific point in time, and it doesn't matter if it's now or 5 years later. And I think we've fully made this transition, and I think if you're a more traditional publisher, that's definitely something to look at and to incorporate into your strategy.
All right. One of Spotify's unique offerings to publishers, we believe, and authors is the data that we share. Not just in what audience they're listening to, but we also share age and gender demographics as well, and cross-genre listening behavior for podcasts as well. I'll start with you, Robin. How are you using that data? Does it shape how you go about doing things?
We use it a lot, actually, and it's audiobooks is mostly sales-focused with our company, but I work closely with our online marketeers. So if they, for example, have to arrange a new big meta campaign, they would ask me what is the demographic for this author or this specific audiobook, and we can just look it up in a portal. And that really helps us to target our audiences better, but it also helps to understand them better. So if, for example, we had this big author and we thought her target audience was way younger, and then we looked at the results, it turned out we mainly reached a bit older audience. So that also really helped us to reshape our strategy for that specific author. So we use it a lot. Yeah.
Interesting. And Colin, Mary Beth, do you have anything?
It's very similar for us, and I might just add that we work very closely in terms of marketing and sales with all of the book publishers that we license the titles from, and now we are seeing more and more instances where we can actually use the data that we gather from Spotify to share with the publisher in terms of targeting those marketing campaigns. And that means that the data actually leads to better and more targeted marketing campaigns for authors and their books, not just the audiobooks, but I think overall the author and the stories can profit from that. So the more data there is, the more valuable it is for everybody in the game, I think.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's all true. And in particular, I would say the very granular location data has been maybe the most surprising and interesting to us. The gender and age is for the most part lined up with what we expected, but the location, and that is hugely beneficial in terms of planning the
So in
marketing
terms of where you're
campaigns.
marketing or where you're putting people on author tours, etc.
And Colin's absolutely right. It is hugely valuable for us, but I think it is also appreciated by the book teams.
Okay, great. We're just coming to the last few minutes, so I just wanted to a final question, really. It's probably a bit of a wider question, really, but how do you think about a reading habit looks like in 2025 compared to just a few years ago? And if you look back in the last 2 years, where do you see the biggest opportunities for the format to go even further? Mary Beth, start with you.
So there's been some discouraging studies that have been released recently in the United States. I think reading for pleasure has decreased by 40% over the last 20 years. And in 2023, I think it was only 46% of Americans read a book. But I'm an optimist, so I do think that audio is a very helpful tool for that. And one of the reasons people give is that they don't have time. And this is not new. We've been talking about marketing to people where they are for a long time, but I think now audio has reached a certain scale where it will have even more impact. So using the data that we have, marketing to people when they're driving, when they're crafting, when they're running. We've been doing it for a while, but I think that we are seeing it's more efficient and I think much bigger results from that. And that is how we're going to increase habits, I think, by getting people to see that they can, engage with books when they're busy.
Great. Colin, Robin?
I think it's also, in addition to you, a cross-platform thing. So introducing readers to the right format during the day. So you might have a paperback on your nightstand, but during crafting, you can listen to the audiobook. Maybe you have your e-reader on the train for your daily commute. So I think also introducing the cross-platforms, introducing audiobooks through podcasts, for example. If you like a podcast and you have time for a podcast, then you also could make time for an audiobook. I think that's also going to expand even more. Yeah.
Yeah, so audio has had a great run, obviously, and when you launch in Germany, I was saying something along the lines of that people might be surprised that there's still people out there who have not listened to audiobooks yet. You think you've proven that there were quite a few, and they have now listened to audiobooks, thankfully. But I think this journey isn't over yet. There's still plenty of people out there who have not discovered the joys of audiobook yet, and I think we'll be coming for you. I think all of us together. It's a promise, not a threat. And I think there's still a journey to be had there. And I think the great thing is I see more and more flexibility in reading and listening behavior. It's not a question of only reading a book or only listening. I think the barriers are becoming smaller, so it's possible to make this decision based on the point in time and the location you're in. And I think it's great because it's great news for publishers, for authors, and for their stories that are going to be continued to be heard or read across the world. And I think we're all in this together. I'm not going to say who's on the other side of that, but I think we're all in this race together, and I think it's great news for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a false dichotomy often that you're either a book reader or an audiobook reader, and I think people discovering more. And you touched on literacy levels in the UK, in the US, and declining reading. We had the same in the UK. There was a really quite depressing report from the National Literary Trust about children's reading. But the one green shoots actually was that audiobooks is the one area where children are doing more of. And we want collectively as an industry, as a platform, to try and encourage reading in any format. Because if you love audiobooks, you'll go on to read books in your later life. So I think that's hopefully a positive way to finish the session. We want to thank all of you for coming during a lunch break. I want to thank Mary Beth, Robin and Colin for taking a lot of time out of your session today as well. And thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.